Yes, Michael Wilk from the Wilk Report. Ready?
Okay.
Ready.
3, 2, 1.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Midnight's Edge After Dark. I'm, of course, your narrator supreme, Mr. Rob Robot Schlomo from Shabby Road Studios. With us, as always, Mr. Tom Connors.
Good evening. How are you doing?
Oh, fantastic. And we are joined by a special guest, Mr. Michael Wilk from the Wilk Report.
Good evening, gentlemen.
Thanks for joining us, Michael. I've been on your show a couple times, so now it's time to return the favor. Not only that, you have some Moonves news for us, but we're not going to get to that right away. We're going to save that for a little later.
Yeah, we've got Diet Spock to talk about.
That too.
First, we have to build all to that, yeah.
Yes. But first, it started out as kind of a slow news day, and this story broke, and it kind of broke the internet. I would say it broke the internet, but everybody's like, what the fuck? Not another one. But ALF is in the works over at Warner Brothers Television. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that, Rob?
Yeah, Warner Brothers Television. This is the story I'm getting from Variety. Warner Brothers Television is in the early stages of developing a reboot of the classic sitcom ALF. Variety has confirmed with sources no writers attached yet to the project, which would again explore the misadventures of the titular cat-eating ALF, which stands for alien life form. In the original series, ALF of the planet Melmac crash lands in the suburbs and takes up residence with a middle class Tanner family. The show aired from 1986 to 1990 for 4 seasons, over 100 episodes on NBC. The series has remained a part of the pop culture landscape long after it ended, and is frequently referenced in other shows and films. One idea that has reportedly been discussed for the reboot would involve ALF emerging from Area 51, where he has been held captive since the original series finale, and observing how much the world has changed since that time. Warner Brothers TV declined to comment. ALF was created by Paul Fusco and Tom Patchett, with Fusco serving as the puppeteer voice behind ALF on screen. The series also starred Max Wright, Anne Shadeen, Andrea Elson, and Benji Gregory. This marks the latest classic series to get eyed for a reboot. Most recently, it was reported that Kelsey Grammer was meeting with writers to discuss a potential reboot of Frasier, in which Grammer starred throughout that show's entire 11-season run. Grammer originated his career on another classic sitcom, Cheers. TV Line first reported ALF reboots development. Not totally unwelcome by me.
At first glance, you're like, no, but then when it's, instead of using the word reboot, if they were to use the word revival, I might have been like, oh, shoo. And if that's the case, I'm on board with this.
Yeah,
as long as Fusco's involved, as long as it's the original ALF, I'm cool with it.
Yeah, because if you think about it, Cobra Kai is basically a revival of the Karate Kid franchise. You couldn't call it a reboot, so I'm kind of
same thing with Roseanne until she blew it, but yeah.
Talk about putting your foot in it, though.
Yeah, like I said, it could... let me tell you, like I said, if Paul Fusco, the creator, if he is involved, then this could turn out to be good. And ALF's one of those things that it could always you can kind of draw fresh material, because it's so, it was so of its time, and now it would be like, man buns, what's the deal? What's the deal with man buns? What, you making a sandwich out of a whole man? Yeah. Exactly.
I've never met a bun I couldn't eat.
Exactly. How do you get a man on a bun? It's very Jerry Seinfeld-esque material.
Yeah, somehow ALF channeling Jerry Seinfeld just comes off as wrong.
Could you imagine if he got a hold of his cell phone, though? That would be insane.
Oh, Lord.
Yeah. The ALF Instagram. That would be, just I can picture that. I can picture something like ALF having an Instagram account, but not putting pictures of himself. Great day at the beach, and you just see like a furry hand. And there's just
can't.
Yeah.
Can you imagine ALF in a Speedo?
Oh, that's scary.
They used to put him in costumes all the time, though. I remember back in the day for posters and. what do you call it, publicity pictures and all that kind of stuff. But no, it's perfect. He's the perfect character for this day and age. As long as it's the original character, I do not want some reboot. Now I understand the family's probably going to be a new family because the Tanners are they're basically
they were in witness protection or something.
Witness protection, yes, in Alaska or wherever it is that the one guy says in the ALF movie that they did for ABC. So let's be clear, there was an ALF movie after the 4th season that most people probably haven't seen.
Project ALF.
Called Project ALF, where they were able to kind of tie up some of the loose ends from the television show. But the best part of this revival is you don't have to have seen, I don't think you probably would have had to seen that, because as long as you've seen up till where he gets caught at the end of the series, which left on a cliffhanger, spoilers for those who haven't seen it, you can pretty much pick up here, it sounds like, and you're going to be fine. I have a feeling he'll be hiding out with a new family. And just to see ALF kind of comment on things that have changed since he's been inside would be kind of hilarious, I think, especially the internet and the way TV's gone with reality TV.
ALF ordering shit on Amazon would be great. just that would be if there. ALF
5,000 cats.
Why did we get 300 pounds of clam dip? I'm having a Super Bowl party.
You can never have enough clam dip.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly.
And then ALF fixes everything by rocking out really hard.
Of course. Yeah. That's how it always works.
Look at me and tell me what you see, because you're the one that's out of this world, sweet baby. I used to love that song. ALF, but that's like one of those, like I said. Supposedly the pitch meeting for ALF back in the day in '86 when they first got a meeting. Supposedly that was legendary with Brandon Tartikoff, and I remember at the end of the initial run. The initial run I think was like 12 episodes. The initial order.
Yeah, the first season. Yeah.
Yeah, and then they got renewed for they got a second half pickup. And I remember at the end, like usually sitcoms, they do the last joke. ALF comes on. Hey, I'd like to tell everybody that ALF has been picked up for the rest of the year, and we have it all thanks to this man. He holds a picture of Brandon Tartikoff, who was then head at NBC. He goes, "Really, this is Brandon Tartikoff. This is who we have to thank." And he had his terrible suit on. He goes, "Look at this guy. Look at that suit. Somewhere out there's a Ford Pinto with seat covers missing." So.
Which I'm not even sure if that made it to the DVD, because unfortunately the DVDs are the syndicated cut, so I'm sure it's not. But I have them. I just haven't been able to watch them in a while. I throw them in once in a while, just watch them randomly. But I loved ALF. I grew up with it. I remember it becoming just such a huge hit right away. It was one of those few times where they banked on something, they pushed the hell out of it, they expected it to be a huge hit, and it was.
Jess Reed's asking, do we remember ALF's real name? Yeah, Gordon Shumway.
Yes, we do. Gordon Shumway. And I think we said it in the first part, too. But
yeah, does anyone remember the animated ALF series?
Oh yeah.
They had two
ALF
of them.
Tales.
They had ALF Tales, and they had just ALF, the animated series, where it was about him on Melmac. So they actually had two of them.
There's also ALF Comic, where he played Judge Dredd knockoff. I remember that very fondly.
But one reason why the show ended, and most people don't realize this, had nothing to do with ratings. This was one of those situations to where it was like most recent years. What was it? You were talking about it, Rob.
1990.
Two Girls in a Pizza Place or whatever.
Oh, Two Broke Girls. Two Broke
Girls or whatever it's called. Yeah, Two Broke Girls. Sorry. Where after so many years, the company was going to have to pick up the check instead of the other way around or whatever, so they decided not to do it, and that's why the show ended, is because they just didn't want to pay for it anymore. It was still a hit.
Just to give a little more clarification. In television, what happens a lot of times is that if you have a series, the production company will pay for the production costs, and then after a certain amount of years, the network will have to pick up the tab. Just that's what Tom's referring to. So, and that in the case of Two Broke Girls, CBS was going to have to start picking up the tab for that. So they decided, screw it, cancel it. So, even though they had a hit show on their hands. Sorry, I'm sorry.
It's weird.
Tom.
I mean, you have a hit show and you cancel it because you don't want to pay for it, but it would pay for itself basically because of all the advertising revenue.
But you have to remember, this was NBC at the time of Cosby and all this other stuff, to where they didn't need ALF. ALF wasn't something they necessarily. I mean, sure, the ratings weren't as high as when it first came out, but it was not nearly doing. And I think they moved it twice as well, from Mondays to, I think it was Fridays, which is a death nail too.
Fridays or Saturday, I think.
Yeah, I can't remember what it was. And so then, so people had a hard time finding it then to begin with. And then I remember so many people were outraged when they never got to finish it. It was like, wait a minute.
And he gets. I remember the very last scene. He gets surrounded by the Air Force or the FBI or whatever, and then it was
the ATF, the Alien Task Force.
Well, the Men in Black, really.
Yeah, I mean, basically.
Yeah.
But and then the movie picks up from there, and like I said, then this new series, hopefully, fingers crossed, will pick up from the movie and television series. If it's a new ALF, I'll be against it completely.
Yeah, I'm sick of reboots. I can't stand this stuff, I mean, because it, especially for Star Trek. I mean, how do you take a show that was created and gave people hope for a more optimistic future, and that actually is part of what made it so popular in the first place, and then 50 years later, you've got it to the point where, it's just like, the future is a crappy place and nothing's changed except for the tech. I mean, what the hell?
Easy. You make the mistake of trying to appeal to millennials, a demographic that has no interest in Star Trek.
Well, and that's a good transition right there. Let's talking about this. We've got new Diet Spock on the way. This is not new news, but there's a little bit more to this.
Yeah, Cinema Blend.
Or it's like Cinema Bland is more like it.
Oh, come on, be kind.
Oh, yeah.
We could use a little bit more blandness in our news,
Yes. Like the Ned Flanders of movie websites. He goes, am I still so dig dang dong diddly boring? Okay. Cinema Blend is they're going with the headline. Star Trek Discovery fans can expect. First of all, okay, you're insinuating Star Trek Discovery has fans. Okay, that's what you're getting wrong.
Yeah, that's your first mistake.
Those three guys in Tulsa. No, I'm just kidding.
Freaking Donna Dickens and the rest of the crew.
And Mikey Spock's mom.
At CBR, yeah. But anyway, Star Trek Discovery fans can expect a much different version of Spock for Season 2. Star Trek Discovery is set to welcome one of the most famous characters in Trek canon in Season 2, Spock. While there is still a lot of mystery surrounding his inclusion in the series, some answers are starting to pour in, and it sounds like Trekkies need to prepare themselves for an encounter with a significantly different version of the beloved character when Spock makes his way to Star Trek Discovery. Discussing the character's debut, or as I like to say, discussing the character's debut, the series' new showrunner, Alex Kurtzman. See, I always have to say Kurtzman because we really don't want to do him.
Or as I call him, Alex Klutzman.
Yeah, we don't want to do him the dignity of pronouncing his name correctly. Well, anyway, he teased the following about Spock, saying, "The Spock, this is not entirely new Spock, who has been formed enough to be the Spock that we know from TOS. There's a lot of story about who Spock was before he becomes the Spock that is the yin and yang to Kirk. What I'm so excited about is that we have an opportunity to present a version of Spock that's both totally consistent with the Spock everyone knows, but very, very different. And it's gonna tie to how we sync up with canon." And they spelled sync wrong, okay? Yeah. They spelled how to sync with canon. Sync the canon.
God.
Like the kitchen sink?
Yeah.
Yes. It's supposed to be S. It's supposed to be
I'm horrible at that shit.
SYNC,
Yes.
and they spell it SINK. So it's going to sync. It is going to sync the canon.
It is going to sync the canon. Now,
Okay,
refresh my memory.
Talk about
Rob.
your Freudian slips.
Okay, but let me just continue on. There's a little bit more. This is one tidbit bound to bring its share of speculation. Of course, Spock, not being the full-fledged version of his original canon self, is expected to be given this is a prequel version of the character. How the Spock character will be entirely consistent with the canon, and yet much different from that version, as Alex Klutzman told TV Guide, will undoubtedly be something to behold. Oh, God. Shut up.
We already have a prequel version. It's called The Cage.
Yeah. And even that version is closer to what we know. Oh God. Well, anyways, given yada yada yada. Given how the prequels have dealt with this issue regarding the character development, there is no reason to believe Star Trek Discovery will not be able to handle it. You're giving them way too much credit here. While Spock's character growth is certainly worth teasing, so is a bit of the background surrounding the plot that brings him to Star Trek Discovery Season 2. Spock's Season 2 debut will be a family affair, as it has to do with his sister, Mikey Sue. Alex Kurtzman has assured Trekkies that Season 2 will explain why Spock left out the vital detail of his sister's existence to Kirk and other crew members of the USS Enterprise. For Trekkies wondering how Spock and Mikey Sue get along with each other, they will soon get their answers, as the show will also delve into the siblings' relationship, teasing the dynamic between the pair. Executive producer Heather Caden said, "I think that like any brother and sister, there's love. There's deep wells of stuff. That's what's so great about exploring that relationship. There's lots of tricky stuff that we get to dig into." Okay, you know what? Fuck you. I don't care anymore.
I don't think they use the word stuff enough. There's deep wells of stuff.
Tricky stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, lots of tricky stuff and exploring stuff.
Oh God, this gives me a headache just reading it. Okay.
Somebody needs to teach these people how to give a proper public relations statement because they don't know.
No.
They don't know how to talk.
Yeah, Jess Reed, thank you for the $5 super chat to cover your payment, so you all can review STD and pay fuck CBS, so I don't have to. Good luck, Rob and Tom. You're better men than me. Yeah, we're taking one for the team. Somebody was about to chime in, and I cut them off. I'm sorry about that. So who was Tom? Was that you? Hello? We lost Tom? Oh, Tom.
I hope not.
Oh, Tom. Well, this is how we have to do in the business. Stretch. So, Tom, if you're out there, blink twice. Tom's sending out an SOS. So, okay. Well, while we try to get Tom, we find out what happened to Tom.
Yeah, I think we've lost Tom. So,
Tommy, I think he had to go take a leak. But anyway, here's what I can't stand. This is a different version of Spock. Okay, first of all, is the cage really canon? Is that really?
It is. Because you have the two-parter of the menagerie, and that references bits from the cage. Basically, it's a way of kind of refreshing people's memories of the pilot. And kind of bridging the gap between, because it's been like, I think, between the cage and the debut of the original series,
Gotta love
it's
Skype.
set like 11 years.
There's Tom's back.
I didn't lose you guys. I was here the whole time. Skype just kind of like broke down, and you guys obviously couldn't hear me. But yes, go on. Sorry about that, Michael.
Gremlins got you.
Uh-oh.
So anyway, Cage. So okay, Cage is the Cage really is considered canon to a certain extent. What they show of it, but I always thought where no man has gone before is more.
Yeah, that was the second pilot basically, because what they did was they were not able to get Jeffrey Hunter or actually
Jeffrey Hunter's wife actually said he doesn't want to do it because she thought he was a movie star, really.
Yeah, and so basically they had to recast everyone. Leonard Nimoy was the only one who stuck around, basically, along with Majel Barrett. But then they had her play a different role from which I always wondered about, because in The Cage, she played the first officer, and then I see her as a blonde on the rest of the original series. It's like, what, did they brainwash her or something? Or are they ever going to explain this in universe or what?
No, they did.
Oh, well, they did have Diana Muldaur play a couple of different roles in the same show, so Star Trek is never
super chat.
very good about stuff like that.
Yeah. Neonvisual.com. Thank you for the £2 super chat. Oh, it's £2 now. I have to go spend it on fish and chips. So that's the rule. I have to, whatever country the money comes from, that I have to spend it on something that's in native to that country. So
I bought Taylor Revolt Bond Street Almond Shave Cream because I'm into wet shaving. So I just got that one.
That sounded fun.
Yeah, I'm trying to pick it. I bought a Razor Rock Mission I don't know if you're familiar with that safety racer. And I have another one. And I was like, cool, yeah, awesome. I feel like a real man. I put a huge cut on my chin, and I have a scar there now.
Yeah, you got to remember no pressure.
Yeah, and I let out a big Fred Flintstone scream. So, anyways, that's another podcast, Shaving with Rob and Michael. So that's. But anyway, actually, Noxzema shaving cream.
I will miss that
good
one.
stuff. But anyway, we digress. Major Bear. Yeah, as somebody just pointed out in the chat, yes. They changed the character from the first officer because it didn't test well with their test audiences, and Gene Roddenberry wanted her to stick around. So, we'll have another part for you, Nurse Chapel. Just dye your hair and So they actually snuck it right past the producer, the network. Really, from what I remember. Captain April says, this is my big point, putting this in between the cage and where no man has gone before. This travesty isn't a prequel to TOS. It's essentially during TOS. Yeah, that's right. I mean, it doesn't fit anywhere.
Yeah, I mean, well, it's not even really a proper canon show. I mean, it's not even a proper reboot because they only took a generic sci-fantasy show and slapped the Star Trek label, figuring they could use that to sell the show, and then the show itself was used to launch CBS All Access. And where's the money going to come from to pay for season 2? Because Netflix isn't going to pay for it.
Yeah,
and not after getting burned on paying for all of season 1, which I'm sure.
And that's the rumor we've heard. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it looks like CBS is going to have to foot the bill for this, but that's going to mean taking on a financial risk at a time when things are starting to get chaotic. Which brings me to my next point, because Variety.com is reporting that Les Moonves has stepped down from the Anita Hill Sexual Harassment Commission as of today.
Which we're going to get into it here a little bit more, but I was going to ask before. That's when Rob was in the middle of the story. How many years? I can't recall offhand. How many years before current TOS time does the cage take place? Isn't it supposed to be like 10 years?
It's supposed to be 12 years.
12 years. Okay, so
it's either 12, but they specifically say 12 or 13. Captain April.
That's what I couldn't remember. I knew it was at least a decade because that's what I was trying to figure out. Because if that's the case, Spock is fairly close to the Spock we know now in that episode. Yeah. Little differences, and that's just because of the way they shot. They used the original pilot as a totally new episode and whatnot as flashbacks. But I digress. The point being, that Spock isn't too much different than the Spock we know in the original series. So they're trying to tell us that Diet Spock is the Spock that we don't know yet. And if that's the case, then
Yeah, and Rob, as I understand it, the reason they're making these changes to Spock has to do with the copyright stuff going on between CBS and Viacom and Paramount, where I guess they can't have the exact same Spock as before.
Yes. Okay, Captain April, thank you. 13 years before the Menagerie. I just watched part 1 of the Menagerie a couple nights ago. Unfortunately, I think I usually watch Star Trek when I want to relax. And it's usually late at night, and if I'm having trouble sleeping, it's just, you put on some late night TV comfort food. Star Trek, and it's just unfortunately I fall asleep most of the time. So, but thank you, Captain April, for that. The reason why Star Trek Discovery has to look different is because, as we've covered before at Midnight's Edge on the main channel and here, is that because of the nature of the copyright, that CBS and Paramount used to be under one roof at Viacom, then they split. CBS got the rights to the IP, and Paramount has the rights to the movies, to their movies. And so the way it works out is that, and what we've heard is that because it's Alex Kurtzman's involved, CBS is now using the Paramount Bad Robot license to make this series. And everything has to be 25% different for legal reasons.
The one that everybody says didn't exist because we claimed it did in an earlier Midnight's Edge video, which, if you use the Wayback Machine, there's proof out there that at one time Bad Robot was the ones listed on the show. But then it changed to Kurtzman's, one of his other production companies, which I think, ironically, what was it called? Undercover Productions or something like that.
Yeah, Undercover, yeah.
So
more like Underwhelming Productions.
Well, regardless, point being, they were trying to hide the fact that Bad Robot had anything to do with this when they actually did. Was the whole point that was coming across. And frankly, it's because they own 75% of the copyright or whatever, and they can't use the other 25%. And
right, so they decided to change about 99% of it, even though they didn't have to.
Yeah,
because
the excuse for that is because kids wouldn't buy nowadays. You know how Star Trek used to look back in the day. Yeah.
Yeah. It was. I just brought up one of the articles here. The guy, his name's Eves. What came from? Some inaccuracies on the Eves account. The spokesperson that stated CBS TV Studios does in fact own the rights to designs USS Enterprise seen in previous Star Trek television series that are not legally required to make any changes to the design in order to use the ship in Star Trek Discovery. The Eves Schneider piece appears in the ships of the line calendar artwork. Okay, yada yada yada. Designers John Eves and Scott Schneider were tasked with putting together the concept art for the Enterprise appearance Star Trek Discovery. One of the images, yada, yada, yada. Okay, back in April 2017, the task Enterprise making an appearance came to be work was start right away. Eve says the task started with the guidelines that the Enterprise for Discovery had to be 25% different. Otherwise, production would have most likely been able to use the original design from the 60s, but that couldn't happen. So we took Jeffrey's original concepts and with great care tried to be as faithful as possible. We had the advantage of a 10-year gap in Trek history to retro the ship a bit with elements that could be removed and replaced somewhere in the time frame of Discovery in the original series. So, and actually now then they scrambled to take that post off Facebook, but the thing is, it's out there. He admitted it. They admitted it. What we all knew, that for legal reasons that they couldn't use the original designs, and so they had to freaking Frankenstein something into existence just to get around. Yeah, they had to fudge it. And otherwise,
it's like they were trying to hybridize the original Enterprise design with the motion picture design, and it just ended up looking even worse.
Yeah. Like I said, the cheese grater nacelle supports, and it's and look, okay, listen, you can try to justify it any way you want, okay, but like I said, it's out there now. It's what we've known all along, that this is not Star Trek. This is not the Prime Universe. Stop calling it the Prime Timeline, for fuck's sake. I don't care how you try to justify. I know it's not the Prime Timeline. Everyone knows it's not the Prime Timeline. Stop saying it!
Yeah, and now Star Trek Online is inserting Discovery into its official... basically because they're being forced to. I mean, I know of no one who plays that game who really is looking forward to that expansion.
All it does is give me a reason to shoot first and ask questions later. So.
You know what? I've yet to meet somebody in real life who actually likes that show. I've met a couple people online, but
my brother's friend likes it. He thought it was good.
Okay, so you got one.
He thought the first episode was
okay.
Good.
Your brother's friend, friend of a friend, urban legend. Okay, you can pretty much ignore that.
Well, I mean, his name's Mike, not you, Mike. Not.
He's from Canada. You wouldn't know him.
He's Canada. Yeah.
Yeah, and oddly enough, Canada gets to broadcast it on Netflix because they've already got, or no, wait, they've got their own network.
They have it on a network, and it was actually they canceled a bunch of the reruns, I guess, because it was getting such piss poor ratings.
What was? It's kind of like the Groucho Marx line. What was it from Duck Soup or whatever it was? Who are you going to believe, me or your lying eyes? That's Monday Matt. Hey, Monday Matt's in the chat. Do the people who own the copyright say it's the Prime Timeline? Then it's the Prime Time. Sorry to break it to you.
They don't own all of it, though.
They don't own the entire copyright. And if you're admitting that it has to be 25% different, then that's still a grade of C.
Right, and basically, even if you believe that line that the copyright owner dictates what's canon, it's really the fans who decide what's canon in the grand scheme of things. I mean, legally, yeah. I mean, you can discuss that all you want, but at the end of the day, it's the fans who decide whether or not something counts as canon. Otherwise,
Yes.
I don't think we would be seeing such a backlash against Star Wars, because the fans would be saying, "Oh well,
That's a
Lucasfilm
very
says
good
it's
point,
canon.
too,
We
yeah.
have no choice but to accept it." But and they're not doing that. So as far as I'm concerned, CBS can call it canon or prime all they want. Doesn't I mean you can call a goose a crocodile. It doesn't make it a crocodile.
Yeah, I always say I look at it different because I'm a sports fan. No matter how you try to tell me, the Knicks still got beat by the Chicago Bulls in the Eastern Conference Finals in 1993. That's all. I can try to tell myself they had the better team. They still got beat. So, like, oh well, yeah, but your team, you have great men. No, they still got beat. They didn't win. That's the thing. It's out. Like I said, it's out there. Matt says, but I've only seen. Hold on, one day, Matt. He says, but I've only seen the first half of the season, but really liked it by the end. I need to go back and finish watching it. Yeah, make sure you have plenty of alcohol on hand, Matt. You're gonna need it. The way Mikey Spock starts human-splaining at the end.
Not only that, like everything we predicted either happened, or even if it would have been clever, then they didn't do it.
So yeah. But so anyway, our special guest Michael Wilk has actually some interesting news related to CBS. Why don't you fill us in on that?
Yeah. So ever since the news broke from Ronan Farrow over at the New Yorker about the 6 women who have come forward to accuse Les Moonves of sexual harassment and really sexual assault, because he attempted to forcibly kiss and caress them, and so that's actually outright assault, and this went on at least until the late 2000s. But as of today, Variety.com reports that Les Moonves steps down from the Anita Hill Sexual Harassment Commission. Quoting from the article, embattled CBS chairman and CEO Leslie Moonves has exited the Commission on Eliminating Sexual Harassment and Advancing Equality in the Workplace, which is headed up by Anita Hill, Variety has confirmed. The spokesman for the commission told Variety that Moonves has decided to recuse himself from his position as one of the commissioners. The news comes on the same day that Moonves, who faces sexual misconduct accusations from multiple women, was suspended from the USC School of Cinematic Arts Board of Counselors. USC's Annenberg School for Communication and Journalism also announced this morning that it not use Media Center's current title, the Julie Chen Leslie Moonves and CBS Media Center, until the investigation into Moonves' behavior is concluded. On Friday, The New Yorker published a piece by Ronan Farrow detailing the stories of 6 women accusing Moonves of sexual misconduct, as well as threatening to ruin their careers if they ever came forward. Some of the allegations go back as far as the 1980s during the executive's early days on television. On Monday, the CBS board held a 3-hour meeting on the subject, announcing when all was said and done that it was in the process of selecting outside counsel to conduct an independent investigation, which, yes, brings me to USA Today and the article about that outside counsel. And it says no other action was taken on that matter at today's board meeting, a press release stated. Additionally, the board announced it would postpone CBS's annual meeting of stockholders previously scheduled for August 10th. The board will announce a new date, time, and location. Now, this is this is probably throwing a monkey wrench into Sherry Redstone's plans, because they already pushed the meeting back from May when it was supposed to take place originally. It was going to take place, like I said, August 10th. But now that this whole Moonves thing is coming to light, everything's thrown into chaos. In fact, actually, CBS's stock price fell about 5% to $51.28 on Monday. So this is really going to end up hurting things for Moonves the longer this thing goes on.
Yeah.
So, and as far as we know right now, they're keeping him on while the investigation is going. So, unlike a lot of situations where generally the person is put on leave or laid off, what have you, even John Lasseter over at Disney still technically hasn't been fired.
And the Los Angeles prosecutor apparently is not going to be filing charges against Moonves.
which is. Does that have more to do with the statute of limitations than anything else, or
yeah,
do
that's
you?
what I'm looking at right now.
Not enough
Yeah, because a woman
evidence.
told Los Angeles police that Les Moonves sexually abused her in the 1980s, but prosecutors declined to pursue the case because, the statute of limitations expired. So, so at least, the older accusations. But, again, there's stuff going back to the late 2000s, and the statute of limitations has not run out on those, presumably. So this does not necessarily mean that Moonves would escape prosecution just for the stuff where the statute of limitations has already expired.
Yeah.
Well, and I'm under this understanding that the only reason that they commented on this or said they weren't going to pursue this is because the woman herself went to the police, correct? So this isn't just about the overall case. This is just about this one individual, correct?
Yeah.
Right. Okay. See, that's where, you got to really read the story sometimes instead of just reading a headline. Because if you just read that headline, it makes it sound like he's not going to get charged or anything like that, or that the police aren't even going to be looking into it. When this is just this case, that doesn't mean the other 5 cases may not be something that are looked into. We can't say that at this time, obviously, but considering, like you said, the statute of limitations is up on that case because it happened in the 80s. But some of these go into the 90s and the 2000s, though.
Yeah. So, assuming the statute of limitations hasn't run out on the ones that took place in the 2000s, then, we could still see him prosecuted for those. But, we'll have to wait and see. Because right now, it looks like everyone's trying to do damage control. And unfortunately, Moonves still has a lot of clout in Hollywood. I mean, he's developed a reputation for being incredibly vindictive, and according to Ronan Farrow's article in the New Yorker, this is not limited to just CBS, but it even permeates to 60 Minutes, which that 60 Minutes, you wouldn't expect that.
No. Hello, did we lose somebody?
I hope not.
Nope, I'm still here.
No, I was
Okay,
just pausing to let you guys chime
I
in.
do have a storm going on right now, so if you get a lot of rumbling and bumblings, that's just me. But no, like this is something that
never mind.
might be mine. But this is not something we normally would get into, and the only reason we're covering some of this now is because it is such big news, and it's attached to this whole CBS thing that we followed to this point with Redstone. And you did have an opinion on whether or not you think that some of this is coming about now because of the whole thing with Sherry Redstone. Did you not, Michael?
Yeah, it just seemed the timing felt awfully convenient. Probably Redstone didn't know about it, or if she did, she probably couldn't say anything. I don't like to engage in conspiratorial thinking, so I can only guess. And I just want to say to people who are watching this video, take a lot of what I'm saying as a guess based on articles that I'm reading. I can only give you information that's been confirmed. But I do suspect, though, that maybe Ronan Farrow may have waited at least until now just because he wanted to throw a monkey wrench into Moonves' plan. I mean, because, this comes at a time when Moonves is basically fighting to save his job. If Sherry Redstone is successful in getting control of CBS away from him, it's not really likely that he would stick around.
Yeah, well, the way we read it is that even if he is ousted by the board, he gets $184 million payday.
Well,
so there's the other thing. And before you, Jess Reed sent us another $2 super chat.
Thank you, Jess Reed.
Congrats on 10K. Thank you very much.
It's because of subscribers like you we can do that. And I also saw an interview with Ronan Farrow, and if you're going to believe what he said that these women came to him right after the Weinstein story broke, which he was the one who did, which we said the other night. He was the one who broke that. And he spent the last, whatever it was, 6 months or whatever, doing research and checking out his sources, or these girls' sources, as far as, syncing up claims to see if he can get other witnesses involved, which I think he did. So, I mean, it's like I said to Rob the other night, it's like at one side I want to say, oh yeah, it does seem, maybe like, at first glance, maybe Sherry Redstone's up to no good, because even our inside sources were telling us that, the mud's going to start to fly here with this battle going on between the two of them. But then looking into this some more, it's like I said to Robin, and I think I said to you before the show, is like this almost feels like a Christmas present that was dropped into Sherry's lap. And she even herself accused Moonves and a few other members of the board of verbally and I think even physically threatening her over this situation that's going on now. So it is kind of, you know, what is this all about? I'm sure we'll find out more in the coming weeks, but that definitely was a red flag for me right away, at least, to where it was like, wait a minute, is this, you know, to where even we're giving Moonves the benefit of the doubt is basically what I'm saying, because even though the team, you know, we're not pro, but
we're not really pro. We're not really neutral observers.
Right, but as far as like how we feel about STD and stuff is what I was trying to say.
Yeah,
you would think we would be biased because of that. But.
Yeah, Stephen Colbert is not giving Moonves any room to maneuver here because, he opened his show saying, you know, how do you get in a Ronan Farrow article? Practice, practice, practice.
I shouldn't laugh at that, but it's true. This is one of those situations where you've got more than a couple, and the stories are very similar. And with the Weinstein situation, I think that has proven to be, because we've gotten to the point where Weinstein has pretty much admitted to most of it, but he's like, is it really a crime? Because these women know what they should be getting into.
It was basically what he said. A crime. That's
regardless,
I
know, but I'm quoting basically what he said, not verbatim, but paraphrasing what he said.
It's still it's still a crime.
It's just, you know, it's like that mentality is there to where these guys think, well, you know, like I pointed out the other night on the show, was the way it sounded that the one actress described it, because he said, I'm hitting on you, and this was after he had forced her down and kissed her and all that stuff already. And it's like, well, if he's saying something like that, well, he's going around with the mentality that that's how this shit works.
Well, yeah, you get guys with a lot of power.
I'm not making excuses for him, but I'm just saying there's something wrong there is what I'm trying to say.
Well, yeah, like I said, you get guys with a lot of power. They think they're beyond anybody else's authority. They think they're I don't want to say above the law, but they think they're untouchable. There was that scene in Dogma. Remember the boardroom scene? He goes, you live without any fear of repercussion, without any fear of judgment. And, you know, and when you get people in a situation like that, they push the envelope to see how much they can get away with, and it's going on. That's why we have the Me Too movement now. I mean, granted,
and Colbert is actually walking a fine line here because he's attacking his boss basically. Yeah, Moonves got him the show on, to replace Letterman in the first place, and.
Well.
But, and
it goes to show you, though, just like with Weinstein, though, these things, this may not have anything to do with Sherry Redstone, again, because these kind of things seem to happen when somebody's at their weak point.
Yeah.
Like Weinstein didn't nearly have the power he used to stop this from getting out. That's how it got out.
Yeah.
Probably the same kind of thing here. Again, Moonves's power is waning to where it wasn't something he could put the kibosh on, because there was also that story about destroying evidence and whatnot too. So
well, you know, there's that whole thing. You know, they say, you know, he says, "Oh my God, you know, oh my God, this is terrible. What do you?" He goes, "You tell anyone, I will ruin you." You know, that there's that kind of thing.
Yeah, in fact, the organization Time's Up is demanding a transparent investigation into this, and I mean, it's just really, shit's really hitting the fan here. I mean, because CBS is, basically forced right now to kind of take action. Because, I mean, I find it hard to believe that the board of directors didn't know about all this. I mean, if it's that pervasive, as the New Yorker article suggests, because Moonves oversees 60 Minutes, he oversees Big Bang Theory, but he's also been a rather prominent voice in the Hollywood Me Too movement, and I think part of what makes this so outrageous is that he's been such a freaking hypocrite about this whole thing. He pretends to support women in the Me Too movement, and he's actually one of the guiltiest parties if you believe what Farrow's been writing.
Yeah. Well, this like the hypocrisy of it all. You know, I mean, yeah, I mean,
Making up for past sins.
no. There's like, you know, there's that whole thing about, you know, a friend of mine. Yeah, there's a hypocrisy, a lot of hypocrisy in show business. I mean, I always point to like U2 says, "Oh yeah, you know, we support the Irish government and their support of artists," but then they go and they set up shop.
Me too.
They go anyway, they go they go set up shop in the Netherlands where they don't have to pay any corporate taxes. Hey man, you got to be responsible with your money. No, I'm responsible with your money, not with my money. Pay no attention to the Italian sports car behind me, you know. So, you know, says, "Well, yeah, man, I'm getting my groceries helicoptered in." Oh, no, man, I don't have to be responsible. I've got enough money not to be responsible. So, but anyway, I digress. Yeah, this is gonna get. We said this is gonna get uglier.
Yeah, but you know, here's the thing. Moonves said in a statement, you know, throughout my time at CBS, we have promoted a culture of respect and opportunity for all employees, and have consistently found success elevating women to top executive positions across our company. I recognize that there were times decades ago when I may have made some women uncomfortable by making advances. Those were mistakes, and I regret them immensely, but I always understood and respected and abided by the principle that no means no, and I have never misused my position to harm or hinder anyone's career. Yeah, well, there are at least 6 people calling you a liar there, Leslie.
Oh. Well, and he pretty much had to admit that he'd done it.
Right.
Did you catch that?
Yeah. So,
and he did that on purpose because there's the payout and there's other things, and basically that's where the defense is going to start. And I was just going to say this earlier, and I didn't, but now I kind of have to. How long before people start using the Harvey Weinstein defense? And I call it that. It was a different time then. It was not taboo around the office. Everybody knew. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
But then, of course, the defense to that's going to be, well, then why did you have to threaten the victims?
Right, because, I mean, there's no way that he can spin this. And, you know, I hate how he, you know, tries to dodge responsibility for this, you know, by saying he may have made. No, you did make them uncomfortable. That's the whole point behind sexual harassment, is that, you know, it makes people uncomfortable, and that's why it's harassment.
Mm-hmm.
So he's using weasel words.
Weasel words. Yeah, trying to weasel out of me. Well, is Leslie? He's a entertainment lawyer, isn't he? Was he a lawyer, or was he just a businessman? What did he do before? I mean, I don't know. It's like I said, this is going to get worse before it gets better for everybody involved. And like I said, we don't actively want Star Trek Discovery to get canceled like this. We'd rather have it crash and burn on its own.
Yeah, well,
and I hate, like I said, I hate this, but there's such an upheaval in Hollywood, you know, right now.
Yeah, well, at this point, you know, I tend to take the position whatever gets it off the air, and you know, because at this point, you know, even if it makes it past season 2, which I don't think it will, because if you think about it, you know, CBS is going to have to pay for this out of pocket. We have not seen still the actual numbers for viewership for CBS All Access, and on top of that, you know, you've got a viewership that is basically saying, look, we don't like this show. CBC over in Canada isn't picking it up for reruns. I mean, and I don't know how it's even doing overseas, but it can't be good. Not
very well. There's only a few places that it's doing well. And the other thing that we haven't even really brought up too much, we have a little bit, but not too much, is the amount of people that aren't watching it just because it's behind a paywall.
Yeah.
Like, they literally flat out say it in all the comments. If you go to one of their advertisements, a good portion of the comments are, well, I can't see it because it's behind a paywall and I refuse to watch it. Oh, my dad would love to watch Star Trek. He's a huge fan, but he doesn't have a setup to where he can use CBS All Access. Why are you keeping my dad from watching Star Trek? All that kind of shit throughout the entire comments.
Well, it's not like he's missing out on a whole lot.
But, no, and that's what usually like the 5 comments underneath say.
But yeah, and I think this is actually going to be a consequence, you know, just kind of veering off subject for a little bit, but not really, because it kind of goes back to all these streaming services where you've got more and more, because it used to be like even 5-10 years ago, you just had Netflix, maybe YouTube. Well, not really YouTube until Google bought it, but you really just had Netflix, and then, it got popular, and then competitors came up. So now you've got Netflix, Hulu, Vudu, CBS All Access. You've got Disney starting their own. YouTube's got their own YouTube Red. So you've got all these different streaming services, and you're really kind of splitting your audience because people are not going to want to spend like $10-15 here and there on like 5 or 7 or 8 different streaming services when they've got cable or satellite.
Yeah, eventually it gets to the same point as cable. But this actually begs the question. I mean, let's just say for a second, Moonves goes down. Down goes Moonves. Phrasing. What happens to CBS, and what happens to CBS? They must have a line of succession.
You already know the answer to that, Rob.
Well, it gets. I mean,
Sherry's
it goes to Sherry comes in,
because it's going to definitely make sure that he's
Backish.
one of the major, Bob Backish, and he's one of the major people standing in the way of the whole merger right now. So if he's out of the way, there's less likely to be people that won't step in line with Moonves, because now they're going to think about, well, he's not here anymore. Who do I have to appease?
And I can imagine all the if there's any less Moonves loyalists, that they will all quit right along. If he's out, they'll
right. Unless we're talking about actual board members and what, it'll be a mess. The fact that he's still around is surprising to me. With this level of accusations, there's
the whole thing. It's cheaper to keep him. There's never that's saying. Let me just.
Either way, he's probably going to walk away with the money. It doesn't matter.
Right. Well, I wonder if that really ties to, because if he is criminally prosecuted for anything that hasn't run out on statute of limitations, what would that do to, because he's not allowed to profit off of his crimes, if he ends up going to jail for this, or at
right. But I don't know how that affects, how does that affect any kind of.
Right. So would CBS, feel bold enough to say, look, you're not getting that severance package because that's money we're going to need for our legal fees.
Well, that's in one case where they may be able to actually keep it. Yeah. But again, does the not being able to profit, does that count thing? Because here's my point is that usually counts on things that have directly to do with the said crime, is my understanding generally. So like, say a serial killer can't sit in prison, write a book and profit off it about writing about his crimes and all that kind of stuff. But since this was something that was set in place before all this other stuff happened, and it was part of his career for however long and his severance, I don't know if that falls under that statute, does it? You get what I'm asking? Or
yeah, that one I'm not sure. I would have to look into that. Like I said, that's pretty much speculation on my part. But I'm sorry. I've been trying to keep this bottled up. I can't anymore. Did Les Moonves anyone?
Shoot them.
I was gonna do it the other night, but I'm like, it's too soon. And then I went and fucked that up.
well, like I said, you noticed that our thumbnail, him too.
Yeah, I should have did it. I should have done it.
Yeah.
Shoot the Moonves.
Yeah. Having a puntastic evening.
So unless there's really much more to say about that, then
all I'll say is that Les Moonves is getting $69.6 million in salary. So like I said, if they kick him off the board, he gets $184 million payout. I mean, so like I said, so he could just, like I said, unless like he's criminally prosecuted, he could just have like a no-show job, So.
Yeah. Well, speaking of no-shows, what's been going on with Kathleen Kennedy? I mean, Disney still has not denied she's stepping down, and she's been awfully quiet lately.
She's in witness protection. she's Kathleen Kennedy. Oh, you.
Yeah.
Oh, how
the
mighty
have hiding right now.
Oh, how the mighty have stubbed her toe. I don't know. She hasn't fallen yet, but yeah, she's. But yeah, she's. I call all this latest news, with like the new animated series and the episode 9 out. It's the Lucasfilm Apology Tour. So.
And yet Disney still will not rehire James Gunn for Guardians of the Galaxy 3. Well,
yeah,
because there's also coming out a Cinema Blend that's, that I don't know why they're being so stubborn about this, because if the cast decides, well, look, we're not going to take part in the movie without him, then Disney's going to have a problem on its hands. You can't.
Yeah,
which they haven't said yet. And until that does happen, yeah.
Yeah, Matt was actually talking about this a couple days ago. He was saying, I didn't watch the whole, I didn't watch the whole video. I got pulled away by something. He said, should I don't know if it was Matt. I don't know if it was Matt or somebody else. Should Guardians of the Galaxy 3 be made at all? I'm like, yes, it should be made. I'm like, what's the issue here? Go either you have James Gunn do it, or you go find someone else.
Well, and I just read today that it may be delayed, which I'm not surprised. I said that was going to happen because they either got to get a new director, or they're going to take enough time to reevaluate this whole situation. They're going to quietly announce that they're still going to use Gunn's script, and if that doesn't get any backlash, then they'll quietly reinstate him a couple months later. All it'll do is delay the film another 3 or 4 months. But then again, that might not be what'll happen. They'll probably get Taika Waititi or the Russos in there to do it real quick. It just all depends. I mean, we got another report today that supposedly comes straight from Disney saying that no, they're not considering this. But of course they're going to say that. Yeah, they're not going to say anything until it's official. But we have not heard anything from Feige, and we haven't heard anything from Bob Iger.
Yeah.
Somebody asked.
Yeah, Phil Lord and Christopher Miller are also being floated, apparently.
Oh, no, please don't. No,
I'm not against that, but I find that hard to believe after the whole Solo thing. But yeah. But then again, Marvel and Lucasfilm are technically separate, so.
Yeah.
Yeah. Jade 2.0 says it's not really a Star Wars apology tour until they fired Rian Johnson from any more Star Wars movies. Yeah. Well, if Kathleen Kennedy goes, he goes. That's the thing. If Kathleen Kennedy's if Kathleen Kennedy's out there, unless they are completely and utterly retarded, and I am not making fun of the differently abled here when I say that, but if they keep Rian Johnson, that they are retarded. So I'm not disparaging the differently able by saying that. But like I said,
I tend to take the word retarded for people who know better and then still behave stupidly. I use the technical medical diagnosis term for people who have mental retardation, because I just think retard has too much of a negative connotation to use for people who actually suffer from that, and so I just prefer to use it old school, like, no, you know better, you still did something stupid, now you're a retard. Thanks.
Like I said, and to me, it seems like the Rian Johnson and some people over the weekend really got upset when I called him Ruin Johnson on the Midnight's Edge Facebook page. Whine.
Come on, he's Ruin Johnson.
He is Ruin Johnson. I mean,
it'd be different if you were adopting it. You were one of the first people to say it, as far as I know. Maybe not the first. Yeah. But one of. You're the first person I ever heard use it. So.
Well, anyways, but he deliberately went out. Tyler Bioshock says, yes, a Rick way of thinking. Yes, I did get that from Rick Sanchez. But he deliberately made a movie that was going to divide the fan base. He can say all he wants that, oh no, my intention was never to divide a fan base. But you actually admitted 10 years ago that's the type of movies you want to make, that are people are either going to say that was great or that sucks. And congratulations, you did it. You did it. You did it with the Star Wars movie.
Well, Captain April says the technical term is fucking stupid.
Yeah.
And then just real quick to go back on the whole James Gunn thing, it kind of looks bad for Disney, though, is it's okay if you drunkenly break into a kid's bedroom and sleep in their bed. That's okay. You just can't joke about it. And if anybody wants to know what I'm talking about, I'm sure some of our younger listeners may not be aware. That was reference to something Robert Downey Jr. had done many, many years ago. He didn't do anything to the kid. Don't take it that way. It's meant to be a joke because it was.
I'm gonna play Iron Man. Don't you, kid? You're gonna say, yeah.
Well, and I think I put it. I don't remember which. It was before I was part of Midnight's Edge, but I put it in a review or a video. Something about Robert Downey Jr. would go from sleeping in kids' beds to being on the sheets and blankets and pillows.
I'll tell you though. There's a guy who made the most out of his second chance. He really did.
Yeah, especially with all the, because I remember when he was doing that one movie with, I think it was Annette Bening, where she played a psychic, and he was also a psychic, and there's like some kind of underwater.
Oh, what the hell was that called?
Yeah, I don't remember offhand.
Damn it, I can't remember the name either.
But yeah, it's been a long.
In Random Game User, I like that. I kind of miss Hi Robert Downey Jr.
And then everybody, you know what? I will say this. I was one of those people who said casting Robert Downey Jr. as Tony Stark was perfect, and everyone says, "Oh," and I've had people say, "Oh, you probably complain when they cast Robert Downey Jr. as Tony Stark." I said, "No, I loved it. Tony Stark's an angry drunk. Who better?"
Yeah. I mean, it's like he doesn't even have to really do any method acting. He already knows.
He doesn't. He's just himself. He really is. He's just himself for the most part. Yeah.
And originally, I don't know if it was Kevin Feige, but somebody at the studio, Marvel Studios, somebody wanted a younger actor to be Tony Stark, and Jon Favreau said,
I think for the longest time, but he denies it now. Was actually attached to it, but
But Jon Favreau said, "No, this is the guy. Trust me on this one. This is the guy." And they finally said, "Okay, he's your guy. Go to it." So, and the rest is film history.
Yeah, you know. Speaking of Tony Stark and Iron Man, something that's been kind of weighing heavily on me for the last few years since I've seen it. How did Steve Rogers survive being frozen all those years? And Cinema Blanda is actually reporting that there's actually a scientific explanation for how Captain America survived being frozen.
I'm sure it has to do with his rejuvenation capabilities.
The super soldier
basically
serum.
Said blood tests revealed that his blood contained excessive amounts of glucose as a result of his liver processing his glycogen stores, thus lowering the freezing temperature of blood-borne water and creating a cryoprotectant. It's similar to what water bearers and hibernating wood frogs.
There you go. Well, I kind of looked at it like, when he tries to get drunk and he can't get drunk.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like the same thing. His body would basically retain the temperature, or in the scientific, technical way you're explaining
so technically
his
blood thickened, but the water in the blood didn't freeze. So that's how he survived cryostasis for all those decades.
Well, what's antifreeze? Antifreeze is ethyl glycol, and that's why that's why it tastes. If don't do this at home, but if you ever accidentally taste antifreeze, it's sweet. It has a sweet taste to it. And if you've ever had to change out the heat,
accidentally my ass, Rob, that stuff's good. You can't see for a week after you swig some of that shit.
But they always say but that's why animals are always at risk of drinking it, because it tastes sweet
and the color
But and if you've ever had a heater core leaking the car, you'll notice a sweet smell to it, and antifreeze is ethyl glycol. Like I said, it's a I don't know if it's sugar, but it's so he has Prestone for blood, pretty much. Yeah, pretty much. Yeah,
making him the manliest man on earth.
Yeah. Anthony Altieri said, and I think we just learned a lot about Robot Schlomo. Yeah, I had to change. I changed the heater core on my car about 2 years ago. And I threw my back out doing it.
I had an Eagle that used to go through radiators like a motherfucker.
Yeah. Yeah. So anyway, there used to be a time when you just suspended your disbelief and went with it. Now everybody has to connect the freaking dots.
Yeah.
Oh, fan theory. I have a fan theory as to why this happens.
But it makes sense.
Yeah, and then the director goes on Twitter and posts a sign saying your fan theories suck.
Yeah, or, there's a difference here. This was a story element that didn't need explaining necessarily, but it's cool to know. Yeah. It's like one of those little tidbits, but when Ryan Johnson has to come out and explain away the movie, and you have to do an expanded novel that explains things, and you have to do homework to explain the movie, there's something wrong.
Yeah, because the novelization shouldn't be required reading just to enjoy the movie. I mean, I remember getting the novelization for Gremlins, and it actually gave Gizmo a backstory, and it's a nice little bit of info, but you actually need it to enjoy the movie? No.
Yeah.
There's two of them, actually. There was 2 different backstories. In the original script, and I know the one you're talking about, and I'll tell you that one in a second, too, but the original script, they were actually manufactured in China.
We knew. I knew it.
The toys,
and then,
were,
and then in the novel you're talking about, for the movie version, the original backstory was, yes, that they were actually aliens from another planet, and they did not turn into gremlins until they got to this planet because of the change in their biology, and they were allergic to the sun and water, etc., etc. And then there's also another passage right after that that I love. And it's just one of those little, gives you goosebumps when you read it. It's 2 World War II bomber pilots, and they're talking back and forth, and then all of a sudden one catches something in the corner of their eye. And they keep talking back and forth. They saw something, and then the plane goes down. It's just this really cool little, prologue chapter or whatever. And it's a really cool book if you ever get a chance to pick it up. I know the one you're talking about. That's a good one.
Yeah. I like the Bugs Bunny explanation behind Gremlins. The Gremlins with their diabolical sabotage. And Bugs just keeps getting ruined on that one. And he's just at the end, he's just going.
That is one of the only characters in Looney Tunes history to ever get comeuppance on Bugs Bunny.
Elmer Fudd actually did get his comeuppance as an animator. And they later remade that same cartoon with Daffy Duck in the Bugs Bunny role.
Right,
Bugs Bunny,
Duck 'em up, yeah.
But in the overall scheme of things, he is one of the few characters who ever got Bugs' goat. Yeah. One of the few. There's a couple, but
anyways, I was saying about the fan theory. The whole thing about your fan theory, your Snoke theory sucks. But the whole thing about that is, and the other, I saw this YouTuber Mahler. He had a good explanation behind it. But if you have time to sit through the hours that he takes to go through it, watch it, maybe small doses. But basically, he said, listen, I don't mind that a fan theory is wrong, but you did nothing. That's the thing. You did nothing with Snoke. Oh yeah, it's your fan theory. So if Snoke's those fan theories you had about Snoke. It doesn't matter. He's nobody. He's that. He's nobody. Oh, want to know who Rey's parents are? They're nobody. Doesn't matter. Oh, want to know who you do when you say you're.
Right, and he forgets or worse, never learned the cardinal rule of filmmaking is that if you set something up, there has to be a payoff.
Yeah.
And even if people don't like the payoff, but it still has to be a payoff. And Johnson was like, no, you're never getting a payoff. It's like it's almost like he deliberately went out of his way to kill any chance of Episode 9 because he was so impatient to get his own trilogy that he wanted to wrap everything up early.
Yeah. It's like, I would say in comedy you have the premise, you have the setup, and you have the punchline. So, his just premise. 2 guys walk into a bar. What, you thought I was gonna pay you off with a punchline? Fuck you.
Right.
But there's no punchline. So that's the whole thing. 2 guys walk into a bar. 2 Jews walking down the street. A Jew, an atheist, and a rabbi are playing golf.
Or a barbarian and his twin sister from another dimension. Which brings me to my next thing is the Verge has a thing on She-Ra fan art. Yeah.
Actually, no. I shared a piece of She-Ra fan art with Tom. I said the other day, and I said if she looked like this, it wouldn't. I don't think people would be complaining. The whole, and like I said, Actually, random. I saw one of Random's video. I saw it this morning about the writers' room for She-Ra. And don't get her started. Yeah, don't get her started. I saw your thing about the writers' room in She-Ra. Oh, a diverse writers' room, all white girls, all white chicks. It's like the cast of Mean Girls. Like, what's going on? Oh boy.
Well,
how many of them were actually alive when She-Ra was actually popular and on TV? But anyway,
0.
Sorry.
Right. Well, there was the home video too, and also reruns and syndication. But yeah, some of the fan art really doesn't look much better, actually.
There was the one that Rob showed me. It wasn't bad. It was very tasteful. Wasn't sexual. In fact, she was covered up a hell of a lot more than the old one. Yeah. But she didn't look like a little boy in drag. She actually looked like a woman, but not an overtly sexual woman. And she was proportionately correct and all that kind of stuff. Just looked like a woman.
I'd say maybe around 18, maybe 19.
regardless, it doesn't matter. I like I said, I have no issue with Adora being a young kid, but She-Ra is supposed to be like, I don't know. There's been so many conflicting things from one of the guys who made She-Ra and stuff like that, and I don't know what to think about it. So it's all kind of like whatever at this point, and it has no connection with He-Man, so I guess I really shouldn't care.
Right, and the whole reason the character exists was because, what was it, Mattel or Hasbro or whichever company was producing it.
As far as I know, it came from the series, because, between Lou Shiner, it was like a direct work. They worked together to make a girl's toy that would hopefully do the same thing the Masters of the Universe line would do.
Yeah. Filmation.
They're trying to take a bite out of Barbie.
So yes, but the whole reason the character existed in the first place was as a companion to a show that already existed. So yeah, you've got to have that tie-in, and now you're rebooting it without the tie-in. It's like, well, what's the point?
And for everyone, actually, I said this on Twitter maybe last week. For everyone who says about how Anthony Altieri says he's got a bounce. Okay, take care, Anthony. Thanks for joining us. But everyone who says, the problem is men can't get off the She-Ra, and I'm like, weren't you all the people that were saying that an Amazon who lived on an island full of women wore a leather corset and was surrounded and is played by a former model that was originally created, playing a character that was originally created by a man who lived with his wife and his mistress in a threesome situation that was originally conceived as a BDSM allegory or fantasy. Weren't you all saying that was a feminist icon like a year ago? I mean, let's get real here. Come on. Yeah. So I don't know where I was going with that. But
you get into a point. It's like you can't have your cake and eat it too. A woman can be either sexually provocative or sexually in charge or whatever, and that's supposed to be okay.
Yeah. But
the moment you try to, say that something isn't the way it should be, though, then they don't want to hear about that. You're a sexist, misogynist pig. But
I showed you the panels a while ago, Tom. There, in the original comic, Wonder Woman was bent over being spanked. So I mean, come on, yeah. And then you were calling this, and everybody was calling this a feminist icon, a symbol for female empowerment. And now all of a sudden, oh my god, oh this is terrible, oh you're sexualizing She-Ra, you're something sick and perverted. I'm like, look at what you were calling a feminist icon a year ago.
Right, and Gal Gadot has made no secret of her sexuality in terms of using it to, because she just flirts with everyone.
Oh yeah.
I'm going to say this, and I can't. Oh, go ahead. I thought you were done.
Well, yeah, no, it's just, I've seen clips of her at public appearances where she's just like, she's using her sexuality to really kind of promote herself and the movie.
Well, she is Miss Ezreal, for fuck's sake, but whatever.
So, Right, so it's like, so I just, can we stop being hypocritical about all this? Because it's like, first of all, I mean, you don't need to sacrifice sexuality for feminism. You can have both at the same time.
Yeah.
Right.
And yeah, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Tom.
No, go.
And that was actually one of the points I was bringing up about Ms. Marvel, about Carol Danvers, was that actually I got into on Twitter with somebody about this. Someone said I didn't know anything about feminism, and I said I thought feminism was about choice. And I shared a panel that says where Carol Danvers was saying, "Damn, I look good." And I'm like, yeah, you know what is it? The whole point of Ms. Marvel was that she's choosing to be here, and she fights for equal pay, equal rights. And I would say that Professor Geek actually did a really good video about this. The whole thing about feminism used to be about building women up, not tearing men down. And I think really
that's the difference between feminism and feminazis. Yeah, basically, yeah.
One of the things is now, like I said, we've gotten to the point where we shame someone if they want to feel like, how dare you be beautiful? How dare you? You're just doing that to please other people. And like, no, There's women want to feel beautiful. What do you think Victoria's Secret has built an entire industry on?
Yeah,
For
somehow,
crying out loud.
Right, and somehow I don't think when Elizabeth Cady Stanton and Helen Keller were getting arrested and force-fed during their starvation protests, I don't think they envisioned a day when feminism would mean, oh, you have to like desexualize women, because people during the Middle Ages, in fact, right up until the 19th century, I mean, they would have laughed at the notion that you have to present women as being anything other than sexual creatures, because they were entirely sexual. And it wasn't until really Victorian times when you had this very hyper Puritan sort of prudishness come about and try to suppress women's sexuality. And it's only recently in the last 30 or 40 years or so that that's kind of started to come back, but now it's kind of going back to that Puritan mindset where it's like, oh, we're not allowed to sexualize women because that violates feminism. Well, no, it doesn't. So
yeah, Slimmer the Comedian says Captain Marvel. Carol Danvers is Captain Marvel. Well, she was Ms. Marvel when I was growing up. That's that, and I still refer to her as Ms. Marvel. So I mean, she was also binary. She was also Warbird. So.
Right.
Yeah. Well, let's get in some questions.
Let's get some questions in. Yeah.
Go ahead, Michael, real quick. Finish up your thought.
Yeah, I was just going to point out a blurb since we were talking about Wonder Woman. Pedro Pascal is looking pretty 80s and stills released from Wonder Woman 1984.
Yeah. It's funny you brought up Wonder Woman because that was what I was going to say before. I'm not going to say who it was because I think it might have got cut or going to get cut. I'm not going to say which because then you won't know who it said it. But when I was interviewing a director, they basically said that it was kind of funny how, women got behind Wonder Woman like the movie was this big push for feminism. When once you leave the island, there's only 3 women in the movie. One's wearing a bikini running around half naked through most of it. The other one's frumpy, dumpy, and funny. And the third one's a villain whose face is covered through most of the movie. Yeah. And that's supposed to be empowering for women. How?
Yeah.
I don't know. Anyway, I just thought that was a kind of interesting point there. But we got questions from the listeners out there. I'll start off with the first one, then Rob can take over. The Too Late Show. How about that Spider-Man Venom movie? Can't wait for Battle of Two Puddles at the end. Who else is excited? Yeah.
Booyah.
Okay, what do we got next, Rob?
Prince Caspian, any thoughts on the Venom trailer? Booyah.
It looked, if it wasn't Venom, it might be interesting, but it was like, what investment do we have without Spider-Man, really? I mean, I kind of get where it's going with what it's doing, but I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's that's have Venom without Spider-Man. I mean, his whole origin is tied up in Spider-Man.
Exactly. And, speaking of tied origins, yeah.
I mean, even if you just have a throwaway line or two in the movie, to explain the connection, that's still better than nothing. But without it, and I remember reading an article actually on Venom and the lack of the spider symbol, and it's like, well, you freaking moron! It's like, how do you have Venom without the spider symbol? It comes from Spider-Man. The symbiote was originally from Spider-Man. So who do you think you're bullshitting?
The whole idea is that Venom is what Spider-Man could be if he allowed himself to be to abuse his power. Really, it's a mirror. It's a negative image of Spider-Man. That's what it is. It's a performance enhancement metaphor.
Well, and I said on the 60K AMA on the main channel, I said flat out, you can look at it and it's pretty obvious without even getting into intellectual type thinking that he's obviously a yin and yang with Spider-Man. Look at Venom. He's almost like made out of a yin and yang symbol on purpose just to, show that part of it. Like this is supposed to be what Peter could be, like you said, if he did go that wrong route, if instead of, learning his lesson from Uncle Ben and was just selfish and self-centered the rest of the way, this is what Spider-Man would have been. So yeah, it's that influence has to be there somehow. And I don't get that. The way they're setting up the story, it's like, okay, yeah. And there's plenty of people who have argued that Venom's had his own comics, but then again, you have to say with an asterisk, but was that before or after the Spider-Man Venom origin, or is there an origin out there that exists? I don't know.
And Flash Thompson was Agent Venom for a while too.
Right.
So.
Well, it started in the Secret Wars anyway, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's where he first gets the costume in the first Secret Wars.
Because Spider-Man's costume gets shredded. He's looking for some new duds, and he finds this little ball of black goo that gets all over him and becomes his new costume. So, and that was the original origin. And then it got explained later that it was part of a species of parasites that attached themselves to their host. And
it magnified and fed off him at the same time. And they worked as symbiotes. But that part I knew. But I mean, I kind of vaguely remember the origin. But unless there's a version of Venom in the comics that I don't know about that has nothing to do with Spider-Man, then this to me is just a cash grab. And there's nobody who can make any fucking argument more than that. Because Disney and Feige or should I say Marvel and Feige have gone out of their way to make sure that you know that this is not part of the MCU. And this is almost made in spite of.
Yeah.
It seems
and we covered this before. I don't want to say they're trying to submarine the Disney Marvel Sony deal, but it looks like they're trying to use the Spider-Man license to somehow get themselves jockey for a better deal next time.
Right. And just to be clear, I'd be all for a spun-off R-rated Venom movie if it was Spider-Man related. This I don't want. I don't want a Venom without Spider-Man. I don't want a Joker
Spider-Man
movie without Batman. I don't. Yeah.
Right.
And I don't want.
As much as I like the original Sam Raimi movie, but by the time the sequels happened, I mean, it pretty much ran out of steam, and then they decided to do when they brought Spider-Man back for the MCU, they did another reboot and really kind of tied the origin more in with Tony Stark and Iron Man. It's like, no, I'm not feeling it. It doesn't quite work because
I don't mind the new Spider-Man, but I know some people don't like him.
Yeah, although I'm glad that they have the web shooters being artificial construct again, though, because that was always a sticking point for me in the Sam Raimi films. It's like, nah, I wasn't feeling that either, and I thought that was kind of a mistake, and I'm glad they fixed that for MCU.
What do you call it? Mayu Tenta Basuda. Did you guys hear Disney is meeting with James Gunn about rehiring? We know about
there was some reports that they said they weren't, so I have no idea if that's true or not.
Yeah, right now it's kind of looking like they're not going to rehire him and they're looking for a replacement. I think they're probably, and I think a large part of it is that they have to be consistent. They fired Roseanne and they're making it stick. If they keep James Gunn around or bring him back, then they'll look like a bunch of hypocrites. And although at the same time, it's like, but there is a difference. And, Disney could say, look, Roseanne was really not properly remorseful and it's a recent thing and part of a consistent pattern of unrepentant behavior. Whereas with James Gunn, he actually owned up to it. He admitted it. He apologized for it. And, they could do that, but I don't think they're going to have the courage of their convictions.
It's a tough call. And the thing is and this is the last I'll say about here now, is when the cast come out, was yesterday or day before, and made their announcement, it stopped shy of, we're not going to do the film without him. And that was one of the linchpins in whether or not he's going to come back. Because the moment they didn't say that, I was like, well, there goes a good
bargaining
chance,
chip,
that this is going to happen, because a boycott or a signature campaign ain't going to mean shit without that. You got to have that as the main thing. Because if you got the cast saying it, if you got people saying they're going to boycott Captain Marvel, if you've got a signature campaign that's, closing in on 1 million signatures, then Disney will take notice. But until that happens, they aren't going to. And it doesn't look like anybody's going to take that leap on the cast to say, I'm not going to do it without him. Batista came close, and that was about it.
Okay. Mark Fields, how do you think Captain Marvel will do at the box office? I have no idea now. I really don't. I wish I could give
mess, I was going to say very well. But it depends on if a boycott campaign happens. And we've learned with Solo that they can work if the fan base works together.
Yeah.
So it'll be
interesting thing about
interesting
Solo,
to say. What do you think, Mike? Yeah.
Yeah, interesting thing about Solo is that no one's really blaming Ron Howard for the way that movie turned out. You know, I mean, people
No,
were
and I brought that up
jumping
the
all
other day
over.
in a chat.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
were jumping all over, Ruin Johnson, obviously, for very good reasons. They were jumping, even Abrams, a lot of people have got some pretty bad things to say about how he did Episode 7, and I am, of course, one of them. But no one's really talking smack about Ron Howard. I mean,
That's because I don't think anybody blames him.
Ron Howard did the best he could with what he was given.
He had, a couple months to put this thing together? We're lucky it even was coherent, to be honest.
Yeah, and I wonder if I wonder if Ron Howard saved it from being a complete disaster because
possibly.
It's
hard to say. And like I said in the review and a few other places, in the end, Disney should have just bit the bullet and finished it up with Lord and Miller and released that version. Because then if they would have had a shitty movie, it would have been a shitty movie and they wouldn't have been out the money they spent reshooting the movie again. In not only reshooting the movie again, but in half the time.
Just finish it and take your lumps. That's all.
Well, because they reshot 70% of the movie. Yeah.
Yeah, doing this whole one movie for the price of two thing. I mean, it's like, guys, if you're gonna essentially remake the whole movie from scratch, I mean, they should have recast Aaron Bacher, however you pronounce his name. Ehrenreich, I think it is, yeah. So
Al Schmeckenberger or whatever, yeah.
Yeah, because there was actually an actor who played a younger version of Harrison Ford in another film who actually kind of nailed it, and you can actually look it up on YouTube.
Anthony Ingruber.
Yeah,
yes.
so, if you had to start over from scratch, essentially, you should have just cast Ingruber and replaced Ehrenreich, because... when you have to have an acting coach on set pretty much the entire time, even through the reshoots.
Well, and I got to say this real quick because we're going to get 10 comments saying this. We're not saying we want somebody who's going to sit there and do a Harrison Ford impression. It needs to be clear. Anthony Ingruber is an actor. He has actually played young Harrison Ford before. And then what you guys were just referring to, they had to have an acting coach come in to teach Alden Ehrenreich how to be more like Harrison Ford. So it sounds to me what they wanted was somebody to do a Harrison Ford impression in the first place. So no, I didn't necessarily want an impersonator doing the job, but the right man for the job didn't get the job. Let's face it.
Right. From what I understand, it's actually worse than that. It's like Ehrenreich can't act at all. And that's why they had to bring in the acting coach, was to teach him how to act.
See, I've never seen him in anything else. I can't,
Right. So it's like, how do you go ahead and have someone who has never been in a big production like this before, who has no acting experience? I mean, at the risk of being vulgar, who did this guy blow in order to get the role? Because I can't imagine, if he literally is that incompetent as an actor, how do you managed to land that kind of role?
What was it? Francis Ford Coppola and Steven Spielberg recommended
I don't know about Coppola, but Spielberg definitely, yeah.
Yeah, they said to Kathleen Kennedy, "You got to get this kid to play young Han Solo."
Do you think maybe they were trying to sabotage her?
And they were so hung up on it that this recent rumor that we reported about young Indy, about him being cast as young Indy, isn't a new rumor. It actually kind of started way back when they first casted him. So it was like this was this thing where they banked on this guy kind of taking over for Harrison Ford, it sounded like. And it's like, where did you see this?
What do you see in him? Yeah. Well, anyway, so supposedly he has a contract to appear in three movies total as Han Solo. We're not necessarily saying Han Solo movies, but 3 movies.
And that just means if Disney wants to use him, though. That doesn't mean that he,
Yeah.
But anyway, who did he blow? Okay, any questions out there for us, Rob?
Yeah,
Graham
Strauss, do you think Feige will put a muzzle on Brie Larson? I think he already has. I think
she's been pretty quiet.
Yeah, she's been pretty quiet. I think Kevin Feige called her as Brie. I know you're very passionate about these causes, but I just want to tell you, see this? I've got Yvonne Strahovski's agent on speed dial right here. So know your role, shut your hole. So.
What do you think about that, Michael?
I don't know enough about it, actually. I kind of miss that story.
Well, Brie Larson said a few things about women, and she made a couple comments, and white women and white guy, blah 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 blah. And she's been suspiciously quiet now for the last month since she made those comments. So she probably got called.
Well, she sparked off this whole thing with this fear of the MCU going full SJW.
Yeah.
And wasn't she one of the people who first said something about there's not enough there's too many white men critics and not enough diversity and criticism? And then she also said that creepy white men can't look at her butt.
She doesn't have a butt.
That one I'm exaggerating a little bit, but there's some truth to that one.
She doesn't have a butt. So anyway, more questions, guys. Let's go. Come on.
I'm seeing a picture of her in the Daily Mail in a swimsuit here, and yeah.
Well, hey.
She's not bad looking, but
hey! You're not supposed to objectify her.
Yes.
Well, then what's the point?
Well, like she tweeted some shit out because some guy asked her out or something like that. And her tweet, I don't know the exact tweet, but it basically boiled down to just because I'm a beautiful woman, does that give every guy the right to ask me out or something like that? And she was acting like the guy grabbed her tits and tried to kiss her or something. You know what I'm saying? It was like the guy asked you out on a date.
Hey, fuck it, roll the dice. What's the worst that can happen? She says no. Motherfucker. You know, let me tell you something. Okay, ladies out there, if you're listening to this, just because a guy says, hey, you want to go grab dinner sometime, that is not harassment. Okay, that is not a reason for you to put a hashtag on him.
Now, if he keeps bugging you and says other shit, then it's harassment.
A photo of herself in a high-waisted blue one piece. It's like, you put yourself out there as a sex symbol. Yeah, people are going to ask you out. Now, yeah, I mean, I can imagine. After the 1,000th guy has asked you out, yeah, then you might lash out and get angry about it. But, so, I mean, and that's probably why, maybe he was like asshole number 100 to hit on her that day, and she just chose him. I don't know.
Well, Brie Larson on Twitter, I merely smiled at the TSA agent, and he asked me out. Asked me on a date. Well, you know what? Too fucking bad, okay? I'm really. I'm getting to the point where I'm saying, shut up. Okay, I'm sick. I'm getting sick of you people. I hate saying that, but for God's sake, you're an attractive woman. You know what? How dare you? You're not famous. This is what I'm gathering from that. You're not famous. How dare you ask me out? That's what I'm getting. Oh, do you think I'm going to go out? I'm going to lower myself to go out with a TSA agent or a plumber? No way. She'll go out. She'll start dating. She'll start dating Andrew Luck before you know it. Jeez. Oh, for Christ's sake.
I suppose. How many more, Rob?
I don't know. Michael, pick a number from 1 to 10.
7.
Okay.
Holy cow.
Lucky number 7. They're asking because she's an A-list actress. Okay, I wouldn't object. Sargon. Okay, 7 more questions, guys. Have you seen women cosplayers? Okay, that's another question for us. What is she famous for? Okay.
Referring to Brie Larson?
No, they're talking to random game user in the chat. Yeah, but that's what I really have the feeling.
I'm sure there was another question up here. I'll look real quick while you're talking. Go ahead.
Say, Mike, do you know Doomcock?
I have been watching his videos with a great relish. I actually would like to have a conversation with his mighty Doomcockiness because I have a suspicion that Harvey Cthulhu is hiding some things from him, and he might want to know.
I'm just trying to get the horse field lowered.
Oh, I gotta hear that.
Son of a bitch.
Yeah, I might suspect, have to have the thing that happened underneath that, on the Wilk report. I suspect underneath the plush doll and the fez is actually Kathleen Kennedy.
Oh,
that's where she's been hiding.
Oh,
Prince Caspian, worst thing to ever happen in any comics. The death of Superman. That was pretty pointless.
Oh, maximum clonage. One more day. Take your pick.
just the reimaginings, the new 52s, the new whatevers.
Yeah, it's like because they already had Final Crisis, and then it's like you don't have to reboot every couple of years. All right, I mean, don't be like Disney where they have to churn stuff out and constantly reboot. In fact, Marvel just did their latest Secret Wars to reboot that entire thing, and it's already a clusterfuck. I mean, pardon my French, but that's you guys don't need to keep rebooting all the time. Just stick with it. Maybe kind of iron out some of the messes that you made, and just do good writing. You don't have to do this gimmick or constantly try and copy what the other company's doing.
Pretty much a lot of stuff Marvel's done in the last 5 years has been terrible. A lot of stuff. I'm not saying all of it, a lot of it. But they're even rehiring Chelsea Kane after she did the whole thing with the ask me about my feminist agenda. You remember that with Mockingbird?
Oh yes, yeah.
Yeah, I mean
Twitter.
But the Mockingbird book tanked, and it was like, yeah, let's hire her again. Sure, why the hell not?
Well, maybe they can get Chris Claremont out of retirement.
Yeah.
Got any more questions out there, guys?
Friends Revival. Hold on. Tyler Bioshock. Will Redstone be far kinder at STV than Moonves? What is her background for that matter on the subject? I think Sherry Redstone, knows how good Star Trek has been to her and her family.
I was going to say it's a lesser of two evils, but yeah, she was around back in the day.
But the thing is, Redstone apparently only wants to get control of CBS back because she thinks she can make more money selling a combined Viacom and CBS.
They might turn around and sell it off, but that's one thing we've said before too. Is we'd hate to see CBS get sold to like say who was looking at Verizon, wasn't it?
Yeah, Verizon.
Who was eyeballing CBS? We'd hate to see that happen, and then 25 or 75% of the Star Trek rights be clear over at some other company, then they can't work together. That would really suck. But yeah, basically that's what she wants to do if that's the case, and hopefully it goes somewhere that they care for the franchise and they try not to destroy it any further.
Yeah, because Larry Bernard and I were talking about this back in May, where or maybe it was early June, where her endgame for CBS and Viacom is basically revealed in one of the court documents where she wanted to combine the two and sell to the highest bidder.
I'm not surprised. Because we've said it before, this is going to end up with like maybe 3 or 4 big, huge companies when it's all said and done.
Yeah.
All this merger shit going down.
A lot of media consolidation,
You
were saying something else, Mike,
to media consolidation because we've got too much of it as it is. And it's really kind of turned the state of media into a big cesspool because you've got Disney making all these decisions like it's like with and CBS, and it's like there is no risk that people want to take anymore to write something new and original or that actually caters to the the best aspects of your intellect. Because you could have taken Star Trek and if you really want to reboot it, okay, fine, but keep the spirit of it alive. For better or for worse, when Roddenberry and crew did the original series, they did it as science fiction, and CBS, of course, wanted Wagon Train to the Stars, so he compromised and kind of did that, but he never lost, the sense that, this has to be about something more than just action. And, even starting in the late 90s with Star Trek First Contact, they really kind of turned Star Trek into an action show and kind of forgot about the science fiction aspect, and I think it's been suffering ever since. And if you're really going to reboot it, you have to kind of go back to that. But you're not going to see that because nobody wants to take that kind of risk anymore. And so, they'll follow the cookie cutter layout and try to apply it across the board to a whole bunch of different stuff and see what sticks. And of course, none of it does because people don't watch it.
Yeah, well, we have a show that keeps spirit of Star Trek alive. It's called The Orville.
Yeah, shit, right?
Yeah. Ictulu, in sincerity, why don't movies have voluptuous women as leads? I find this really odd.
Well, they tried that with Lara Croft Tomb Raider. It didn't quite work out. Also because the script was crap and Angelina Jolie was just doing it for the paycheck. But I think part of it, and I hate to jump in and sound like I'm coming off like an SJW, but it is actually still true, is that Hollywood really does not like to give that kind of role to a female lead, especially in this day and age where of Me Too, where they're kind of afraid of hypersexualizing something. And, this goes to like the new She-Ra cartoon where they make her look like an androgynous kind of character, and no one wants to be the one to make a TV show or a movie where the female lead is can be sexualized. Although not for lack of trying with Gal Gadot, because she's nothing but sexual on screen, and so she's probably an outlier in that.
I said something about how when Yvonne Craig was Batgirl. I talked to Tom about this. That when they were trying to kick around the Batgirl movie, please cast somebody not. Obviously, Yvonne Craig is no longer with us, but cast somebody in that mold who actually looks like a woman, please. Not an androgynous little boy. We've gotten so cowed by what people are going to think that and again, Professor Geek, this whole there's no difference between the sexes. Yes, there is. There are biological differences between the sexes. It's not being misogynist or chauvinistic to say yes, men and women are different. I have eyes. Anyway.
Yeah, and let's face it, if Gerard Butler and company can do the 300 and wear a little more than thongs and straps, then you can. I mean, we guys have no problem flaunting it, even if we don't got it. So I mean, if we can do it, I think women, if they want to.
No. I stay covered. I call that a public service. So.
Yeah. But it's like.
Yeah, getting back to Sherry Redstone, she's also apparently now calling for a thorough open investigation of Les Moonves by CBS. So yeah,
I'm not surprised. But no, it's like they're just so afraid to allow women nowadays, like you said, to be in any way, shape, or form a sex symbol or a sex object or anything like that in any way,
or just a sexual being.
Yeah, and it's like it's gone completely against everything that women fought for 40 years ago. To be able to be an independent woman, to be able to, not, yes, to be sexual, but not necessarily a sexual object, but strong at the same time. Sarah Connor's not necessarily ugly, but I wouldn't necessarily say that she's like a buxom pinup model either. It doesn't matter. Same thing with Ripley. There's strength and beauty and strength, however you want to put it. Either way, we're not saying that these women have to come off like somebody out of heavy metal either. There's just a naturalistic beauty is just fine. Why is that a bad thing to be able to? That's what Hollywood used to be about. And I'm not saying that we don't need diversity in sizes and shapes and differences, but why is it such a big thing now? It's like this taboo to be like. Because everybody made a big deal about ScarJo in Avengers 2, remember? Because of her whole thing. It was like, and then they made it, Chris Evans made a joke about her being a slut or something like that. And it was like, oh my God, and it became this whole big fucking thing.
And like she's waiting for someone to rescue her. Well, yeah, well, come on. That was sound like Archie Bunker. I eat it there. So,
well, she didn't mean it in that way. She meant it in a way to be, she wanted. I get it. I'm not getting into all that.
Okay, yeah.
Stupid, but yeah. So next question.
Okay, yeah. Somebody wanted to know if we were going to push the button, lower the shield. Yeah, yeah. Push the button.
I'm getting out. Fuck yeah.
I will avenge you.
Sorry, Harvey, you're not getting out. But I have to wonder though. Instead of calling himself Harvey Cthulhu, why not call him Phil Cthulhu?
I don't know. It's funny
because Phil is just such a far more threatening name than Harvey. Harvey's
You'll
a
have
rabbit.
to ask the Lord on that one.
I don't know.
That's why he's named Harvey. Is it could be a tip of the hat. Harvey.
One for you, Mike. Have you ever met Matt Jarboe?
I have not, although I do watch his channel, Three Buck Theater, every once in a while. I do have a day job that keeps me quite busy, so I don't get to watch as much YouTube as I want. But But yeah, I watch all your guys' channels. Although except for Larry, which I really actually didn't know he had a channel, which I'm ashamed to say. But I
gotta
will
work
make
on
a
it.
point to look at
Larry
it.
is actually kind of like your co-host or whatever,
Yeah.
generally on the Book Report. He was going to join us tonight, but he was unable to. So, but yeah, we might as well say this now and get it out of the way. You have your own channel where you do the show called the Wilk Report, and I've been on there a couple times, and portions of this show I believe are going to be on your next show. So yeah, go ahead and check out the Wilk Report. I think that's the actual name of the channel as well. Correct?
Yeah, I can probably link to it when I upload it. Or if you guys want to link to my channel, feel free.
Sure.
I've
I can throw it down in the description, yeah. But yeah, he has a little bit different points of view on things, so be prepared. There's some political stuff on there, but he does also cover some entertainment and stuff like that once in a while. So, so go ahead and check that out.
Right. Well, I tend to cover more backstage politics for entertainment.
Yeah.
And actually, I think some of the misconceptions I try and clear up, or at least I consider the misconceptions, like for example this whole so-called SJW thing, and I actually kind of hate that term because I find it demeaning, but for lack of a better term, I think a lot of people misinterpret the reasons why the SJW stuff is put into Star Wars and Star Trek now, and I think it's really just kind of more cynical corporate pandering because they want to appeal to as a broad audience as possible. They're not going to do that by limiting themselves to the original audience, so they figure, okay, if you don't think your demographic was represented, well, now we've got someone for everyone. But people, I think, kind of misinterpret Kathleen Kennedy as having this political agenda, and I think, no, it's really just kind of her agenda is money, basically. And they want to fill as many seats in the theaters as possible, and that's pretty much it.
And trying to appeal to everyone, they appeal to no one. So
exactly. So, but then you've got people on the far right and some on the left who figure, it's like they're trying to push a political agenda. Well, maybe, but I kind of got the feeling it's just probably more mundane than that.
Yeah. Okay. Jace Machine Gaming. Is it just me, or does the new Mila Kunis movie, The Spy Who Dumped Me, look like a gender swap version of the 80s classic Real Men? I don't remember that movie.
Well, I was in Target yesterday, actually.
Is that the one with Howie Mandel and who was it? What's his face from Saturday Night Live?
Let me see. Jim Belushi.
Jim Belushi. And who else was in it? Not Howie Mandel. Then it was
John Ritter.
John Ritter.
Yeah, I knew it, but at Target yesterday. I saw the DVD for the Overboard reboot, and it had Anna Faris playing the Kurt Russell role, and some guy I never heard of playing the Goldie Hawn role. So yeah, I mean, talk about role reversal, which I suppose could work, but
it's okay to objectify and use a guy, but not they could never make the original version now.
No,
if they can do the reverse now, it's okay.
Okay. Okay, a couple more questions, guys. Actually, we got two more since we had 7.
Drinks.
Okay.
I thought you were talking about like number 7 in the lineup, not 7 more questions.
Oh, yeah, no. 7. That's how we do it now.
That's how he plays it.
That's how I play. Yeah.
It's a drinking game for him now. Somebody made it a drinking game. So
we're going Virtue Signaler. Yeah.
I think Rob's proud of that.
Yeah. Just drink responsibly. Drink responsibly, yes. If you're George Carlin, remember he said, "Don't drink and drive. Do all your drinking first. Get it out of the way, and then go driving."
Yeah, probably being facetious in there because.
Well, of course.
Of course, George. George. Oh man. Okay, come on, guys. Some questions here. Come on.
Yes, please.
I don't know if you heard us last night. We were talking again about the day the clown cried.
It would have been. Was it last night?
God,
night before.
Yeah, I was listening to that. I am so stoked to see that movie when it finally becomes available, if it becomes available, because I know Lewis never wanted to have it seen while he was alive.
Actually, I did look it up. It's not 2011, 2014. Supposedly, it's going to be released. He donated to the Library of Congress in 2024. I'm sorry. He donated to the Library of Congress.
I was going to say, we're way past that.
Yeah, it's like, how long does it have to wait before it becomes available?
10 years after he donates it to the Library of Congress.
Okay, so
2014 he donated, 2024, and I will be there. No, I will be there.
Yeah, because it's kind of like, I imagine it must be as bad as Manos: The Hands of Fate. I mean, and if you want a clue as to how bad that movie is, Manos is Spanish for hands. So the movie's name is actually Hands: The Hands of Fate. Mm-hmm. Which gives you an idea of just how awful that movie is. If it's on that
I know the
level,
one you're talking about, yeah.
Then I will probably be getting loads of riff tracks from that thing.
Slithering Peanut. Are you going to let Jake out to bring on the show again? Well, we got some we got super chats. We can go out and we can head out to the shack and call an Uber and. Okay, that is number 6. And
Oliver Smith asks, did you ever meet Jeffrey Thompson or Bill Hunt? I think that's directed at Michael because obviously I have. Rob hasn't yet.
No,
probably not. I don't have a life, so I don't get out at all.
Okay. Tim on Flip. Thank you for the $10 super chat.
$10. Wow.
What's R? What's R? Well, is that South African rands? What is that?
I thought it was a letter in the alphabet, but you know.
Well, R was a $sign.
My views today in feminism that no women can do anything that appeals to men, but that don't go hand in hand with capitalism. Awesome work. Okay. Thank you very much. Now, if it's from South Africa, what do I have to get from South Africa? Do I have to spend it on Trevor Noah records? I'd rather not.
Yeah, please don't. Trevor Noah is not funny.
I hate him.
I don't know what Comedy Central was thinking, putting him to replace Jon Stewart.
Well, John said that if he ever was going to quit the show, he'd have somebody with an accent, so people would say, "What happened to John? And who's this guy?" So. And mission accomplished. Maybe he wanted to tank the show, but I've actually looked at his ratings. His ratings are right back to where they were before Trump took office. So he got that bump, but he hasn't been able to sustain it. Okay. Die Antwoord albums. Okay, come on. One more question, guys. We got one more question here before we call it a night. Has Jake been introduced to the GIMP yet? No. We can't end on that one.
I have on good authority that the GIMP is actually Lieutenant Dan.
Lieutenant Dan.
Ooh.
If you remember M.E.A.D TV and that sketch Gump Fiction, that's hilarious.
Yeah. Oliver Smith, do you guys have any advice for hiking in the mountains?
Don't.
Yeah. Don't. If you do, but seriously, if you do, they say make as much noise as possible to scare whatever wildlife is around.
Yeah,
I'm serious about that. Yeah.
Yeah, because if you're thinking of doing that, just watch Werner Herzog's Grizzly Man.
Oh my God!
Be put off of going hiking for quite a while.
A lovely one. Yeah, I haven't watched it all the way through.
I would.
If I'm reading this right, it's Brazilian, and yes, I think Stephen Ander just said that.
Brazilian reals.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you very much for
knowing's
half the battle.
Can you buy Brazil nuts? Does that count?
Yeah, Brazil nuts. Okay, last question tonight. When are we gonna get that new ABBA album? And what Marvel property would I be willing to write for? Silver Surfer, and I don't know. I'm not banking on an ABBA review just yet, and I regret not going to the ABBA museum when I was in Sweden.
If it was me, I would probably do either Spider-Man or Incredible Hulk, because if I'm going to do a Hulk where I kill off Bruce Banner, first of all, I'm not going to do this pussy-ass, kill him off and then bring him back as an amalgamated clone of him and Wolverine. No, I'm just going to kill him off properly and then start off with a whole new Hulk.
Tom?
Why do you got to kill the Hulk?
Well, I wouldn't have in the first place, but if I have to, it's like I never liked this whole idea of having death being a revolving door. It's like Dr. Freedom says on his YouTube channel, if death has no meaning, then you pretty much cheapen the story. And I remember when Chris Claremont left Marvel back in the late 80s, early 90s, and killed off Magneto in the process, and it was a really touching story. And then they go ahead and bring Magneto back. Well, you just cheapen the whole story for Chris Claremont.
Right.
It didn't ruin my childhood, but it ruins my nostalgia for Claremont's Swan Song when he left Marvel back then.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Tom, what property would you write?
For Marvel, Howard the Duck.
Okay, well, guys, I think that's a good place to end it. It goes, Graham Strauss, the Trek log is coming soon. We promise.
We hope.
Yeah, we hope. Anyway, we'd like to thank Michael Wilk for joining us from the Wilk Report.
Yeah,
Check out
thanks
his
for having
channel.
me on, guys.
Check out his Patreon. Tom, as always, great having you.
I'm glad to be here.
I'm glad to be anywhere.
I'm glad to be alive and breathing.
Yeah, and
I'm glad for all of our supporters and our subscribers out there. And if you haven't subscribed, click that subscribe button.
And the bell icon.
Yeah, and the bell icon to get notifications, because if you don't get the bell icon, you don't get Taco Bell either.
Make a run for the border.
Right.
And don't forget to head over to the main channel, click subscribe, and ring the bell there. And if you really like what we do, head over to Patreon. You can support the channel for as little as $1 a month. And you get all kinds of neat bonuses. You get the lost episodes, early notice for mini documentaries, uncut audio, bloopers.
We got stuff
outtakes.
coming. I know it's been a little quiet over there, guys, but I've been waiting on Andre. He's got to be on the edge. That's supposed to be coming real soon. So.
Yes, Beyond the Edge, the making of Midnight's Edge. And as always,
I'll tell you what, if you're our millionth subscriber, I will buy you and your family Taco Bell.
Oh boy, you don't.
I've got a taste for chalupas now. Thanks, guys.
Got the chalupa.
And it has to be an actual subscribers. You can't go make a bunch of bots.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
no cheating, guys.
Yeah.
Don't be like Tom Brady.
And like I said, thank the random game user. Check out her channel. Check out Random Game User 42's channel. She does some good stuff over there. And as I always say, if you don't have the means to support us on Patreon, please click subscribe, click the bell icon, share with your friends and enemies, because we, as I always say, we cannot do this without you. So one more time, I am Rob Robot Schlomo.
I am Michael Wilk.
I am hungry for kitty, kitty, kitty. Ha, 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 ha.
Oh!
I'm Tom.
Oh! And see you next time.
And I'm an addict.
Here, kitty, kitty, kitty. We'll see you next time.
Recovering from STD.
Is that a wrap?